All right? Are we really living in the end times? In Matthew 24, verse 3, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming, and the end of the world? Yeshua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceives you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Messiah, and shall deceive many. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in different places. All these are the beginning of sorrow. In Daniel chapter 12. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which stands for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. Many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. So the question is, are we living in the end times right now? The answer to these questions are, well, look at the Bible, look at history, look at the current events for yourself, and then you decide. There have been many well-meaning teachers and pastors and Bible students who have taught that in their generation the second coming of Messiah would occur. I have no problem with these people. It's a good and biblical to be vigilant. However, there are others that have erroneously predicted the actual day of his second coming. Stay clear of these people. These are the nutcases, the lunatic fringers, and the biblically ignorant. The Bible is crystal clear about setting dates. Matthew 24, verse 36, Yeshua says, Of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father only. Still, there are people that continue in their vain attempts to be modern-day prophets. Edgar Whisenant sold 4.3 million copies of his book detailing why Christ would come in 1988. December 31st, 1988, came and went, and no Messiah. The next year, he sold 30,000 copies of a book he wrote detailing why Christ would come in 1989. December 31st, 1989, came and went, and no Messiah. If you don't get it the first time, try again, right? After missing it twice, the retired NASA engineer who lived in a one-room shack outside of Little Rock, Arkansas, said he could stand in front of the Lord and say, I gave it my best shot. It would have been even far better for Whisenant to shoot for reading the Bible first and without making a fool of himself. In Acts 1, verse 6 and 7, is another text warning us not to set dates or times. The disciples asked Yeshua after he was resurrected, Lord, will you at this time restore the kingdom of it to Israel? He said to them, It is not for you to know the times or the season which the Father has fixed by his own authority. Did you hear that? Not even Yeshua, Messiah himself, knows when the Father is sending him. It's similar to what the military does before deployment. The sergeant in charge of the duty roster calls you at home, tells you to get to the base ASAP, He tells you to bring all your gear, minus your field jacket and sleeping bag, and tells you to kiss your wife and kids goodbye for a while. You have just 2 hours to get your affairs in order. The clock starts ticking. You can't find your jungle boots. He just hinted to you that you're going somewhere warm. If you are not there in less than 120 minutes, ready to go to the staging area, you will be considered AWOL. You can't find your bug spray either. You ask your wife, where's the bug juice? As if she really knew. Finally, you find the missing items of the wife, the kids, and take you to the battalion. You wonder if this is really it. It is. You ask the sergeant, first sergeant, where are we going? He says, you'll know when you get there. It's not for you to know right now. In the same way, for some reason that only Yahweh, the Father, knows himself, he doesn't even tell his only begotten Son when his time will be to return in glory to the earth. Don't try to figure it out why this is so. We have to be content with the fact that there are some things we will never know until we arrive there. But when that duty sergeant calls and says not to bring cold weather gear, he did give a hint to where he was going. Our Heavenly Father has done the same for us. Since we all are in Yahweh's army, we must be prepared at all times for the inevitable. As certain as the prophets of old were that Yeshua would come the first time, and he did, we are 5 times as sure that he will come the second time, because the second coming is predicted 5 times as often as the first. Let's look at some of the hints that our Father has given us. In Daniel chapter 12, starting in verse 4, Daniel is commanded, but you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal this book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. What words and what book is Daniel commanded to shut up and seal? We're clearly told in Daniel 12, verse 1, at that time shall arise Michael, the great prince who has charge over your people. Daniel's people, of course, are the Israelites. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never has been since there was a nation till that time. A clear reference to the Great Tribulation. But at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone whose name shall be found written in the book. These people who will be delivered, like I said before, are Israelites. But these are a special group of Israelites. These are tribulation saints of Israelite descent who come to a saving knowledge of Messiah during the Great Tribulation. And the book of Daniel refers to it is the book of life. Let's focus now on the latter portion of that verse 4 where it says, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. Here is our first hint or sign of the times that the second coming is drawing ever closer. I believe the phrase, many shall run to and fro, is a clear reference to the ability of mankind to travel in any spot of the globe in a relatively short time. In the Hebrew, run to and fro means to pass through a land. Not until the 20th century has mankind been able, nor has he succeeded in traveling to or passing through every parcel of land on the earth. Ronald Amundsen, a Norwegian polar explorer, on December 14, 1911, reached the South Pole, becoming the first person known to have accomplished this feat. He and 2 other explorers, an American and Italian, were the first to cross the North Pole by air in 1926. You and I can hop on a plane and fly to any part of this planet, provided that some of the passengers don't carry box cutters and shout, "There is only one God and his prophet is Muhammad," and ruin our flight by flying into a skyscraper. Then Daniel speaks of knowledge increasing, beginning with the telegraph, the telephone, the radio, televisions. Then we have computers. Now we got the internet. We can know virtually anything in a matter of seconds with a flick of our fingers if we have a modem, a computer, if you have a special telephone. That telephone you got in your pocket is probably a big computer also. It's got a little microphone. You push the microphone. Tell me this. Boom. You got the information. Now let's take a look at some of the signs of the end that Yeshua himself warned us to be on the lookout for. Signs that he would come to pass just before his second coming and the end of the world as we now know it. Not that the earth was going to disappear. The age of mankind. There was a beginning of the age of mankind. There will be an end. At the beginning of Matthew chapter 16, Yeshua's religious enemies challenged him to show them a sign from heaven. He answered and said to them, "When it is evening, you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, it will be foul weather today because of how the sky is red and threatening. Hypocrites, you know how to discern the face of the sky, but you cannot discern the signs of the time." Today's modern technology has vastly improved our ability to forecast the weather, but are we any less blind to the ominous signs of the times in which we are now living? The foremost passage of the entire Bible to determine the signs or hints that the second coming of Messiah is imminent can be found in Matthew chapter 24, from the very words of Yeshua himself. In verse 3 it says, "As he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, 'Come on, tell us when the time will be. What will be the sign that you are coming in the close of the age?' Verse 5 gives his first tip-off. "For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Messiah,' and they will lead many astray." We see this today. As the time of Messiah's return draws near, there will be more and more individuals who actually claim Jesus Christ is Messiah. By the way, Yeshua is the Messiah, not Jesus Christ. Someone once claimed that since 1900, over 1,100 people have claimed to be Christ. I'm not sure how they came up with that number, 1,100. But there have been scores of people this century who claim to be the Messiah, including Jim Jones, the People's Temple, Moses Guberry, David Koresh, Christ Mantraya, the Jewish World Review. Several years ago, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the late leader of the Lubavitch movement, based in New York City, was believed by his followers to be the Messiah. The Lubavitch movement denies this, but a recent visit to the movement's crown headquarters revealed a large banner in its main sanctuary proclaiming Rabbi Schneerson, the Anointed One, which means, in Hebrew, the Messiah. And children attending the movement's educational institutions are encouraged to consider their late beloved leader the Messiah who will rise from the dead. December 24th, 1997, God's Salvation Church, a cult similar to the Heaven's Gate group located in Garland, Texas, claimed that one of the children in their group is a reincarnation of Jesus Christ. They believe that God will arrive in a spaceship on March 11th, 1998. Well, it's 2020 now, and I guess they're still waiting. Marshall Applewhite of the Heaven's Gate UFO cult was apparently considered a reincarnation of Christ, or another being like Christ, by his followers. And this is not to mention Father Divine, Charles Manson, Maharaja, and there's another Maharaja of yogi and transcendental meditation fame, the Dalai Lama of Tibet, who was a 1989 Nobel Peace Prize winner. In World War II, Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's chief propagandist, said in a broadcast on 19th of April 1936 that Germany has been transformed into a great house of the Lord, where the Führer was our mediator stands before the throne of God. It was Hitler himself who ordered that he be presented as a deified Messiah. Another powerful voice in the Nazi Party, Dr. Robert Lee, proclaimed that we believe on this earth in Adolf Hitler alone. We believe in National Socialism as the creed, which is the sole source of grace. And then we have Joseph Stalin, a former seminary student, used his theological training to develop the program to deify the leader of the Russian Revolution in 1917. It was Stalin's belief that Russians were forever looking for a God czar, so he decided to present them a new God in place of the old overthrown by the Bolsheviks. The new God czar was an atheist messiah, the god Vladimir Lenin. The majority of believers believe that the presence of these false messiahs, of which I have mentioned only a few, will accumulate in the appearance of one final Antichrist, who is mentioned in 1 John chapter 2, verse 18. Little children, it is the last time, and as you have heard that Antichrist shall come, even now are there many Antichrists, whereby we know that it is the last time. With breathtaking advances in mass media, this time, more than any other time in history, false messiahs can disseminate their message on a worldwide scale. But very soon, a false messiah will be widely accepted on a worldwide scale. In verse 11, Yeshua added, "And many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. And because of wickedness is multiplied, most men's love will grow cold." There are many who believe that Yeshua is the only way to the kingdom of heaven, that the Bible is Yeshua's inspired and inerrant word, yet they do not have the love of Yahweh in their hearts. John 13:35, Yeshua says, "By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." If we do not love one another, by this I mean agape love, not a liver-quivering feeling or sentiment, but a seeking someone else's higher good, then it's time we reevaluate our faith. Matthew 7, verse 21, is the most frightening passage to me in the entire Bible. In it, Yeshua says, "Not everyone that says unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that does the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works? Then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you that work iniquity. Therefore, whosoever hears these sayings of mine, and does them, will I liken him to a wise man, which builds his house upon a rock." Love for others, including our enemies, is the surest indication that we are true disciples of Yeshua. Let us not allow our love to grow cold. In Matthew 24, verse 6, Yeshua gives us another clue. "And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in different places. All these are the beginning of sorrows." Another version puts verse 8, "All of this is the beginning of birth pangs." Historians all agree that the 20th century was unparalleled in the scale of its human misery created by other humans. No period has witnessed the escalation of wars as has the 20th century. The Red Cross has estimated over 100 million people have been killed in wars since the 20th century began. This is not including genocide by the Russians opposed to Stalin, the Jews exterminated during the Holocaust, Idi Amin's or Pol Pot's or Mao Zedong, the evil and bloodthirsty regimes. Up until 1914, war had never been universal. But in both World War I and II, total war was waged. Since World War II, there have been numerous major wars, hundreds of rebellions and revolutions. The death toll and conflicts since the end of World War II topped 23 million people. Yeshua also predicted in verse 7, "And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in various places." March 27, 1964, Alaska was devastated by a massive earthquake, measuring 8.4. In the 30 years since the Great Alaskan Quake, there have been as many major earthquakes as in the entire previous 2,000 years of world history. The World Almanac tells us that there were 21 earthquakes of major strength between the years 1000 and 1800. But between 1800 and 1900, there was 18 earthquakes. In the next 50 years, between 1900 and 1950, there were 33 major quakes. And between 1950 and 1991, there was 93 major quakes, almost tripling the number of previous half-century, and claiming the lives of 1.3 million people around the world. And I just read a news article just recently, of last week, where the Yellowstone National Park had over 100 earthquakes. This dramatic increase of severe quakes has led many scientists to predict that we are entering a new period of great seismic disturbances. And then there shall be famines and pestilences. Matthew 24:7, "For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in different places." We all remember the HIV virus, which caused AIDS, has currently infected at least over 34 million people around the globe. Now, these are 2011 totals. Who knows what it is now after 9 more years? In 1993, AIDS became the leading cause of death of U.S. males between the age of 20 and 45. In 2011, 1.7 million people died in the U.S. And they shut us down for this COVID virus, and only 200,000 died in the U.S. AIDS is not the only modern plague to afflict mankind. Virtually unheard of among our ancestors, over 100 different kinds of cancer now kill over 5 million people every year. In 2015, there will be an estimated just shy of 2 million new cases of AIDS diagnosed. Now, who knows what the numbers are. Cancer is a leading cause of death worldwide, according to 8.2 million deaths in 2012. The depletion of the ozone layer, which blocks much of the sun ultraviolet radiation, is thought to be responsible for a dramatic rise of melanoma, which is a deadly skin cancer. I had a neighbor die from that. The world's recession, resulting in poverty and homelessness, has devastated the healthcare system of many countries, and diseases once thought banished by modern science have made an alarming comeback. Epidemics of typhoid, diphtheria, and even the Black Death have afflicted areas of India and former Soviet Union. Deadly new strains of malaria, tuberculosis, cholera, and are becoming resistant to all known antibiotics and are killing millions of people. The most underrated health epidemic, known as the Spanish influenza pandemic, because it grew to worldwide proportions, is believed to have been born in early March 1918 after soldiers at Fort Riley, Kansas, burned tons of manure. 2 days after the first soldier reported feeling sick, 48 soldiers died at Fort Riley with a listed cause of pneumonia. But the virus behind the sickness followed the troop movement to Europe, and more became infected, and the sickness grew more deadly in the process, which seems tame from what we have experiencing today. Worldwide, the epidemic killed 20 to 40 million people. In the United States, estimate placed the death toll between 500,000 to more than 675,000. That's for this. We ain't even reached that point. We haven't reached that point from COVID-19 yet. As a comparison, fewer than 300,000 Americans lost their lives serving in the armed forces during World War II. The specter of the resurgent smallpox is ominous, especially given the enormous efforts that have been made to eradicate what has been characterized as the most devastating of all pestilential disease. Unfortunately, the threat of an aerosol released by terrorist elements of smallpox is real, and the potential for a catastrophic scenario is great unless effective control measures can quickly be brought to bear. And then we have the China virus of 2020. How then should we respond? How then shall we live? Yeshua told us in Matthew 24, verse 6, "See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place, but the end is not yet." All of these clues do not suggest that the end of the world has come. Messiah can come at any time, that's true. But look at verse 8. All of this is but the beginning of birth pains. When a woman begins to get labor pains, it did not mean that the next moment the child will be born. Her first contractions was merely a sign that her 9 months of labor were coming to an end. I have a nephew, had a baby born to him, and his wife, and I asked how long did the labor last. He told me from 7:30 a.m. to 9:30. And I thought, well, 2 hours and wasn't that bad. And he said, no, that's 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. What I have just discussed are the initial birth pains. Soon, we will end with the signs where the contractions are intense and what must happen when history will be in the very last phase. Is anyone ignorant about childbirth? It's not something fun to go through. The end with the signs where the contractions are intense and what must happen when history will be in the very last phase. Remember that. When you watch the news and you see what's going on, it has to be. And it's not even anywhere near intense. Yahweh bless you with eyes to see, the mind to understand. May Yahweh bless you with peace and safety from this evil world that we live in.